Welcome, college baseball fans, especially ACC fans. An interesting day, maybe not the best day for the ACC, given the result of the Tennessee Florida State game. Um, it's 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 been interesting. I mean, in terms of pure college baseball, two walk-offs. I don't think that's ever happened. That's pretty great. I'm joined here by Nick and Micah, who are, Micah's pretty busy this weekend, and yet he's made time to show up tonight, which is great. So I'll start with Nick. So I have a feeling I already know how Micah's feeling. You can kind of see it on his face. But Nick, how are you feeling?
The day started off pretty good. I mean, we had ourselves a really good day of just like quality ACC baseball with Virginia and UNC. I thought that game was very fun to watch, even though it was low scoring. I think there was a lot of traffic on the bases, which made things interesting, but nothing really was going until the ninth inning with the game-winning hit by Honeycutt. But going to bed tonight, we're gonna have a sour taste in our mouths, knowing that Florida State probably should have won this game. Whether you agree or disagree with the call, nonetheless, Florida State blew a 3-run lead in the ninth inning. I think we all can agree that the game should have been over, that was 100% a swing. Very close in the strike zone, too. Was a little low, but still, regardless, we all know that game should have been over. It's a sour taste, man. We really thought that we'd have two ACC teams in the winners bracket move on Sunday.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a mixed bag for me as well. But Micah, how are you feeling?
I'm pretty defeated, Monty. If I'm being honest, obviously my favorite team lost today, and I called that, so I dug my own grave in the first game.
And you nailed it.
You really nailed that.
Yeah, and I mean, I was when you said it, I was like, that's a really good take.
I mean, it wasn't the most like off the cusp, outlandish take ever, but
right.
I dug my own. Only thing that got wrong, I said 2-run home run. So that was the only thing I was off on. But I mean, just Monty, it's not one bad call. I'd like to think I'm pretty good about defending the umps. I understand it's a difficult job. Everyone makes mistakes, but it's just every time this happens in an ACC SEC game, it always goes the SEC's way. Every time, and it's getting really frustrating.
Yeah.
We saw it last week with Clemson and Florida with the bullshit ejection. Excuse my French. I'm fired up because it just seems to happen every time. It's okay every once in a while. It really is. But this is just getting. I just don't even have an answer for it.
Yeah. We're going to recap the games. I guess we should start with Virginia and UNC. I mean, Micah, I will say for both teams that lost today, sitting in the press conferences, Virginia seemed significantly more defeated than Florida State. And I think that's where I wrote an article about UVA's experience and how it should help them. And it's interesting. I think that experience might go the other way at this point because it's here we go again. We lost by a run. What do we have to do to get a win in Omaha? Griff looked about as dejected as you do right now, Micah. So interesting, but I just wanted to bring that up. I thought that was interesting. You would think the team that blew a 4-run lead in 2 innings at the end of the game would be a little bit more, devastated than the team that just got beat by Honeycutt. So Virginia, interesting game in the first game. DeCaro and Evan Blanco really just grinded out. Neither one was particularly dominant, yet they both pitched fairly well. There was a lot of traffic, but nobody scored. UVA squandered a bunch of chances. UNC got 2 big 2-out hits late in the game. That was ultimately the difference. The big talking point, and I know what side we're on already because we've all been talking about it. Nick, I am going to start with your thought on the decision to pitch to Honeycutt. with Jackson Vandenbrake on third base. 1 out, sorry, 2 outs because Wilkerson popped up. You are obviously not in agreement with Brian O'Connor's decision.
Yeah, just off the bat, I was kind of surprised that they were pitching to him. And I get that Casey Cook had himself a day and Honeycutt was struggling up at the plate like he was over 3. And Parks Harbor, even if you wanted to walk the bases loaded, Parks was having a good day too. So I get that, but just watching this postseason, Honeycutt has come up with the most clutch moments for UNC. I mean, walking off against West Virginia, doing his thing against LSU in the regionals. I think big time players come up with big time plays, and he's a big time player. And I think I would have walked him. I understand where you guys are coming from. Definitely, I think someone said it in our group chat, and I'll try to give him credit. I don't know. Maybe one of you guys said it is a double-edged sword here. Because if you do walk Vance, what are your chances against the next guy up in Casey Cook? So I'm going to go with my gut and say I probably would have walked Vance Honeycutt in that situation.
Yeah, and you didn't bother me as much as Grayson's. The reason I got a little defensive, Micah and I both agree with O'Connor. I believe Micah came in on that side, but Grayson making it seem like it was an egregious decision to pitch to Honeycutt. I don't think it was egregious. I think you could argue either way, coming both sides. But Micah, what were you want to discuss some of your thoughts? And, I agreed with O'Connor. I think the way Casey Cook was swinging the bat, you had to go after Honeycutt, who hadn't looked particularly dangerous all day.
Nick, let me ask you a question. If Jacob Duden's on the mound with second and third, and we got Charlie Condon coming up the bat, do you still want him to pitch to him? Knowing that you can strike him out? Because Chase Hungate's been good for Virginia. This isn't a bad pitcher.
Well, are you talking about like the exact same situation?
Exact same situation, but the base is loaded, so he actually has the choice.
Yeah.
But the lead in that game was different.
Okay, fine. 1 run. It's a tie ball game. Regardless, Charlie Condon was the winning run.
And he doesn't strike out at the level that Honeycutt does either.
Correct.
Just want to throw that out
and
there.
Honeycutt was, again, 0 for 4 playing in Omaha where he's never played before. So, you can say what he wants about playing at UNC, but I posted that graphic, Nick. It's a little bit different playing in Omaha than it is playing at
No, yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's different playing.
And I would understand the decision, right? Like if he's going to catch a stray tonight, but if Alberto Osuna is the guy on deck who has been struggling all season, especially late, especially in the postseason, if he's the guy on deck, walk Honeycutt and either get a pinch hitter or face Osuna. You take that battle. But you're taking the best hitter of the day in Cook, or again, you can walk him. And people say, "Oh, when they have a force at every base," yeah, but you're also putting pressure on your pitcher to not throw 4 balls,
as you saw with
potentially hit somebody.
With Roland at NC State, right? When they brought him in with the bases loaded, you have no margin for error.
And you trust your guys. I mean, you recruit these kids for a reason. Like if this was, I'm not trying to go after these different bullpens, but like Chase Hungate, has been one of the better pitchers in all of Virginia's bullpen all season. You trust your guy, and again, the crazy part is, again, you can say what you want because Hungate's not Wilkerson, but he got Wilkerson to pop up the batter before, so you're feeling pretty good because he gives up the pinch hit double. But then gets the ground. I mean, obviously it was a sack, right? But he gets the first out, and he gets the second out. You take your chances, I don't. I mean, again, there was no winning for Brian O'Connor because people are going to say, what if Hungate they intentionally walk Honeycutt and they intentionally walk Casey Cook, and then Hungate hits Harbor. Everyone's going to be criticizing O'Connor for the decision to do that.
Yeah,
there was no winning.
And this is a fun conversation to have, but we'll never really know. But I agree with Micah and O'Connor, and I agree with O'Connor that Casey Cook is the best hitter in the UNC lineup. Honeycutt is the dynamic star and is a first-round pick, but Casey Cook, to me was an ACC Player of the Year conversation. Obviously, Tibbs had such a great year; he wasn't that close in the conversation, but he was there, and he had literally just done the 2-out double or single in the 7th to tie the game. So it's interesting because I think if you walk Honeycutt, I know you made the joke. You're like, well, if I was coaching, they'd still be playing. I was like, no, I think if you were the coach, Cook would have just been the hero. But it's interesting. But you talk about Hungate pitch. I mean, Hungate, that the double by Vanderbrake is a 3 unassisted if the defense is playing straight up, because it's a double to first base because of the shift. And shout out to Vanderbrake, because I knew the moment that as soon as this thing was coming up, he looked awful. 0 for 3, 3 strikeouts, just not competitive at bat. So it's not a surprise Vanderbrake was in there. And just props to Vanderbrake for coming up big despite having a horrible season. He's a team captain, but I don't think enough's being talked about him with Honeycutt getting that hit. But I did think it was interesting with when he went behind 2-0, maybe you might think about revisiting the walking Honeycutt situation, because that's where it's a little tricky, because they did get behind him, and that's where he can be dangerous. But ultimately, we can second guess that. But go ahead.
Do you guys think that Vanderbrake is going to take Ozuna's spot in the next game?
You know, I wouldn't be surprised, but I mean, they need to try to do something, because I know they benched him in the Super Regionals probably for Vanderbrake, right? I can't remember who.
Yeah, I think that's what happened.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah,
I was going to say
he came up. He had a clutch hit in that Game 7 against LSU. I believe.
It's me, the SEC. Are you scared?
So yeah, no. To me, they don't really have too much depth, so it'd have to be Vanderbrake or Castagnazzi. So I would go to Vanderbrake over what Osuna is giving us lately. It's going to be a really interesting game with Tennessee and Shea Sprague facing him, but we'll talk about that another time. Micah, what were your thoughts on the Virginia offense today? I mean, they got a lot of traffic, but weren't able to convert. A lot of balls hit well in the air.
Gifted that traffic, though.
Yeah, DeCaro did not have his best stuff.
I mean, again, obviously some of that's on Virginia, right? But I mean, especially in that first inning, those bases get loaded. I mean, a good baseball team loads the bases there. It wasn't like Virginia anything special, because you could tell DeCaro didn't have the breaking ball. He didn't have the off speed. He had his fastball, and nobody could touch it. I mean, it was kind of embarrassing. You're Virginia, you know it's coming, and you still can't touch it. I mean, that's credit to DeCaro. I mean, he's a great pitcher. But it was frustrating, because you know what's coming and you still can't hit it, and you're one of the best. Like, I mean, to be honest, Monty, this offense has been completely non-existent this postseason. I mean, they've had 2 big innings because of mistakes from the other team.
And by the way, they played pretty well against Pence the last time they faced him, but that Pence was the dominant Pence that we've seen the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I have no frustration with Virginia. I mean, it came into this pairing as the worst team in the field remaining in this side of the bracket. I mean, everyone else is a national seed besides Virginia. So at the end of the day, like, I didn't have the highest of expectations, right? I mean, there was hope that, if they could piece the pitching together, they could do it. But they didn't get the at-bats that they needed to. I mean, it's frustrating, right? Henry Ford would have made it 3-0 at the dish, but he didn't in the first, because we're playing in Omaha. And I mean, I can understand Griff's frustration. You've been to Omaha the last 2 years. You've lost by a combined 3 runs to teams that are some of the best in the country. I mean, Monty, I don't want to be negative, but I think your press conference analogy, I mean, I don't think Virginia is going to win against Florida State. I'm debating personally, Monty, whether it's worth hauling my butt to get to Omaha for that first game on Sunday and not sleep to potentially watch my favorite team get eliminated again.
I would not recommend it, just because. I mean, that has nothing to do with whether you be.
Yeah, that's coming from the sleep thing. I know, but I mean,
and the drive for me, I got to Indianapolis and I thought I was going to cry. Like, I was so tired. So.
But it's just frustrating, because you're sitting there with Virginia, and again, like, North Carolina is a great team, so it's not overly frustrating. It's just I guess we'll get to Florida State and like what that means for the winners bracket stuff later. So I'll save that for later. But
Yeah, I will share. Brian
Oh, also,
O'Connor-
sorry, I tipped my hat just to the Virginia in general. Pitching again was fantastic. I mean, that was the end of the day. Like, this is the best I've seen Virginia pitch in a very, very long time. So even if they go 0-2, Monty, I'm still going to be very, very proud of the season as a Virginia fan because, at the end of the day, the pitching I mean, it's going to be frustrating because you're not going to get the offense you needed. And there's going to be some questions about marks on why they can't seem to figure out how to hit in Omaha. But at the bare minimum, at least we can't blame the pitching, which, in 21, we kind of put a little bit on that. And even last year, it kind of felt like the pitching let them down when it mattered most. So it was nice to at least see pitching kind of.
Yeah, because the Nick Parker was fantastic. If you remember against Florida,
it was the bullpen, I guess, was more of a better way of phrasing. Last year, obviously they leave. I always forget his name every time I have to ask you, Monty. Jake Berry in too long, and then obviously Jay gets kind of left for the Wolves. But
yeah, and that's the only time I've really blamed Oak for because like the 2021 thing, you didn't have anyone else shot you.
No, you did it. You did it.
You had to ride shock. And then this time I agreed with his decision. So people are talking about that. But I want to share press conference final thing that Oak was asked about. You guys played a really strong baseball game, but little things didn't go your way. What's the message to you guys going forward on the brink of elimination? And Oak seemed particularly angry. You know how he is quietly, so you'd have to really pay attention to know he was really kind of pissed off. But he said, be better, period, end of story, unacceptable. That's not Virginia baseball. He goes, I know what these kids are made of. They bounce back, but yeah. But he goes, what I'm talking about is the small details. Every coach sits up here and talks about it this time of year. They did, and we didn't. So period, end of story. We have to be better. And if we're better, then we'll have an opportunity to win and potentially move forward. I think a lot of people would have been like, I think UVA played okay, but they just didn't come out on top. I don't think he was happy with the performance at all, especially offensively.
Yeah, I mean, you were gifted opportunities. Like it's funny because all these, we'll get to Florida State, Tennessee, but like that was a different type of gifted, from a Florida State standpoint for what Tennessee gave the Noles. Like Virginia was gifted opportunities, and they obviously didn't actively choose not to take advantage, right? But I mean, again, knowing the fastball is coming in the first inning and still can't put the ball in play. You see it. I mean, they stranded 7 runners in their first 4 innings or something ridiculous like that. I mean, you just can't do that in postseason baseball against a team like North Carolina. So
yeah, and real quick, Harrison Didewick and his throw. I finally asked about that in the press conference because Nick, he's been doing that all year. Normally, it doesn't result in an error.
Right.
He does spike that ball into the ground an awful lot. I don't know he has to have the yips because I asked specifically if he was injured. And Oak said he's not. And I don't know if you saw, they put Aiden Teal in right after that.
I did not see that. No.
Yeah,
I didn't even realize that. No.
Yeah, so Aiden Teal went into left field and was out there because he can throw the ball. And that's what happened in the Boston College series as well. Didewick's throwing is why he was replaced by Aiden Teal, and Aiden Teal made that diving catch against Boston College that seemed out of nowhere. I really wanted the game to go to extras because I really wanted to see Aiden Teal bat in the 10th inning because he would have been up third, and he's 4 for 10 with 3 home runs on the year. I don't know why he doesn't hit more, but I guess it's because of the crowded outfield. But yeah, it's a tough result for Virginia. But on the other hand, I mean, UNC continues to roll.
Yeah.
Nick,
UNC is primed. Again, I think it's got to be frustrating for UNC. I bet you they were probably, I don't think they'll actively say this, but I think you'd rather get Florida State, especially because, if Florida State gets out of that, you lost Connor Whitaker. He was done. I mean, he threw 70 some odd pitches. So you would have been without Whitaker. Obviously, Arnold's gone. So you've got Dorsey, and then you got
Oxford might have been Oxford, depending on when you got out.
Yeah, he probably would have been available, but then you got Abraham, but again, like none of those. We've talked about it with the bullpen, right? We'll get to them in a minute, right? Yeah. You just don't know what you got with them. So the only piece you have is Dorsey, and I think you'll take Sprague versus Dorsey. So like that would have worked out, I think, really well for North Carolina, where obviously getting Tennessee.
As an ACC guy, I would have felt really good about UNC Florida State because we would have been guaranteed a team to be 1 win from a national championship series.
And I honestly, this might be crazy, but I think Virginia could beat Tennessee if it all kind of went down that way. But again, it is what it is. So
Yeah. Nick, any final thoughts on UNC before we turn over to this Florida State game, this crazy Florida State-Tennessee game?
It's just what UNC's kind of been doing all year, just quietly going through. I mean, it wasn't quiet today, but, I think people are starting to wake up to what North Carolina is all about. They grind out these wins. They're in the winner's bracket now in the College World Series. One point I did want to make before we moved on from Virginia too is I feel like O'Connor has got to I think it's just a combination of everything. They went 0-2 last year in Omaha to some very close games. And I think, getting that one national championship was great, but they've been back so many times. I think it's just all kind of weighing down. Like this might have been the game where, we take that next step back to the championship series. And I think once again, just kind of slipped through his fingers. It doesn't surprise me that O'Connor had that type of reaction in the press conference.
Yeah, and 5 straight losses in Omaha for Virginia, by the way. It's the last 3 by 1 run each. So now we're talking Florida State and Tennessee. Obviously, they blew a 3-run lead in the 9th, but they actually led by 4 in the 8th. And I believe it was Tiers with a solo shot in the 8th that got it to – I can't remember. But, it is really funny, though. I was scrolling and I saw that Miami had some sort of hype video during the FSU game. I thought it was funny that Miami's hyping up coming to Mark Lake Magic while one of their biggest rivals is playing in Omaha. I laughed at a lot of the replies and the quote tweets because people were like, "What the heck?" So that was pretty funny. Miami continuing to be a meme. But
the only guy in the replies right now is Kansas Cats Heat.
Why do you think I just
only
did that?
ACC fan we got in the chat right now?
And I'm just giving ricochet shots to him. But
where do I see this chat? Why do I never see it? Where is it? Oh, there it is. Comments. Okay, yeah, I'm just dumb. Okay. Anyways.
All right. So, by the way, every member of Florida State got on base. They hit the first home run of regionals, super regionals, in Omaha, thanks to Jamie Farrer's home run. Jamie Arnold didn't have his best stuff. He battled, but ultimately they just. I mean, it was a sloppy game on both sides. And Link mentioned that in his press conference. Both teams had opportunities, and they weren't. It wasn't a particularly clean game. But Oxford, who's been pretty good all season, just kind of imploding there in the 9th. So it's going to be interesting to see how they bounce back. I do want to point out Carson Dorsey did pitch against Virginia in the ACC tournament, and he did not record an out and gave up four straight hits. 3 of them, I think, were home runs. 1 was a double. But again, I'd also tell you to take it with a grain of salt, as Carson Dorsey as a reliever is significantly different than Carson Dorsey as a starter. But who wants to start? I don't even know where to start on this Florida State.
I want to go first because I don't know if there's any SEC fans that are watching this or what. Tennessee's the best team in college baseball. I've said this 1,000 times on this show. I think Tennessee, this team is the best team in the game. There's no doubt about it. They have the arms. They have Christian Moore is one of the most clutch players I've ever seen. I mean, he's got 2 strikes and 2 outs, and he's looking at the dugout like, I got this. It's time to he doesn't even blink.
That was nuts. Yeah.
I mean, this Tennessee team is so freaking good. Everyone that's like, oh, Florida State was gifted a lot. Fine. Both teams gifted I would say both teams kind of gifted each other the same amount. I don't think there was much of a difference there. A team like Florida State or any team, Kentucky, go down the list of every team in Omaha. No team is beating Tennessee if you give Tennessee a second chance.
Yeah.
And that's what the umpires did tonight. Regardless of what anyone wants to say, the umpires gave Tennessee a second chance. You cannot give someone like that a second life. It's I mean, you got Blake Burke, excuse me, up to bat, and he gets he swung. He swung. Everyone in every college baseball outlet, D1 baseball has said he swung. 11.7 has said we swung. Hey, swung. We said he swung. Everyone has said he has swung. You can't give a team like that an opportunity, because you can't end a college baseball game on a check swing. Which, by the way, I think that was a strike to begin with, but that's besides the point. The TrackMan data can figure that one out on their own. But I mean, it's frustrating, Monty, because I'm going to say it right now. I'm going to drive to Omaha. I can already feel it, and I'm going to be leaving on Friday because it's going to be an all SEC final. I can already feel it.
Or maybe you'll bring the magic.
I'm out of magic. I'm out of it. I'm done. It's over. I'm so frustrated, Monty.
I will say that Micah about 15 minutes ago, I was like, I'm going to try not to be negative. He tried. He did do well. And so you did get to this point before you got really negative. But, yeah, it's tough. Obviously, it's tough. The Christian Moore performance is unbelievable.
Do you think that Florida State? We'll speak. I'm going to speak on Florida State real quick. Do you think that Florida State has any shot of winning this bracket now, with the bullpen they have?
I refuse to. I don't. No, I lean towards not likely. But
okay, sorry. Yeah. There's not a 0 chance, right? But if you're telling me odds with how good this bracket is, you're going to have to beat Virginia. You're going to have to beat either Tennessee or North Carolina to eliminate them. And you're going to have to beat either of those two teams twice.
Yep. And here's the thing is somebody's going to have to step up who hasn't stepped up this year or who doesn't have the best numbers.
No, not someone. 2 to 3 guys are going to have to step up.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
with how short of arms they are. I mean, obviously the extra day of rest is going to help because I think Jamie Arnold could probably start again in if they get to the championship game where the team's undefeated versus them having the 1 loss. And obviously I think Whitaker could probably go again in the second game if they needed him to, or the third game, excuse me. But, obviously outside the loser bracket in the 1-1 game. But I mean, Oxford didn't have his best stuff tonight. We haven't really seen it a lot from him as of late, unfortunately. This Florida State team is obviously capable of doing a lot. I mean, we know that. But I mean, I think we saw 4 very, very good baseball teams today, and we saw 2 very different games, which was 2 just no one wanted to take advantage of mistakes in the first game, and on the flip side, it was the opposite. It was who could take advantage of the most mistakes.
Yeah. Disappointing result, Nick. Let's talk Florida State and Tennessee.
Man, just not the game I kind of expected that was going to happen. I mean, Arnold was getting a gift from his lineup, man. I mean, he wasn't on his, usual stuff that we're used to seeing, but, the Florida State lineup just never backed down and had control of the game for most of the time. I mean, I'm with, everybody else. I mean, I was watching the game and reacted as if he had swung. And I was like, yeah, let's go. And I was like, there's no way that was a swing. That was 100% a swing. And seeing Oxford's reaction, I mean, just kind of tells you everything, right? Like he thought that was a swing too. He was celebrating on the mound for a second. Just unfortunate. I mean, when Arnold's not going, you have to rely on the lineup, and the lineup pulled through. But, I think there were some sloppy errors in the outfield. I mentioned this on our Twitter account. A lot of the outfielders playing very shallow, especially center fielders playing shallow. I know the wind was blowing in. Well, I know it's a big outfield.
And it's not windy, and the balls just aren't flying. Like UVA hit a lot of balls kind of hard, but they were dying. Like they weren't anywhere close to. I think in the dish, I think a lot of those would have been home runs. And the dish isn't necessarily a huge hitter's park, but they were just dying today. So I think that played a factor.
Yeah, and there was some bobbling the ball in the outfield in the corner.
Jaime Ferrer had a completely misplayed the first one to him. That it it was Burke hit a pretty routine fly ball that would have scored the run from third because Christian Moore had
Right.
that triple, but you wouldn't have had Burke on base to score again later in the inning.
Exactly. Yeah, that was tough in the first inning when that happened. I do worry for Florida State. I mean, I think they can pull through to get back into, a potential 2-0 versus 2-1 type of situation in the finals. But we'll see. It's just that's such a low blow when it's out of your control. You can't do anything about it, and it's just like you know what's going to happen next when the umps give the opposing team a gift. You know that they're going to come up clutch, just like Micah said. You can't give a team like that a second chance, and they got that second chance. Things were kind of rolling for Florida State's pitching staff too. I mean, they were about to only go through 3 pitchers, and it seemed like everything was going to be okay and get the win. But now you kind of have to dig deep because if you want to advance, you got to play an extra game.
Yep. So
I will say, Monty, I was kind of surprised they went to Oxford when they did. I know Whitaker's pitch count was getting up there. It was the most he's thrown since his injury. So
yeah, and I think he's still technically injured. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if he's fully back.
That's fair. But, you're what, 2 outs away? Is that what it was? From getting it, and you're up 3, and,
Yeah, it was.
Like, you've burned Whitaker already at this point, for the
71 pitches.
Yeah, I would. I mean, and you trust your guys, and Oxford's been good for 90% of the season. I'm not saying it was the wrong decision. I know in the moment, even I was a little surprised they went to Oxford, just running the risk of Whitaker wasn't in trouble. So,
yeah. And if they go, but I think also they might have been thinking if they can get it quick, it can be like a bullpen. I don't know, but
yeah, no. I mean, again, I know in the moment I was kind of just a little surprised.
I thought so too, because
I thought they would have gone to Oxford to start the inning if that was the decision they were looking at potentially doing.
Yeah. So that's pretty much our show for today. I think Micah's probably busy with personal stuff tomorrow. Nick and I might be able to do a show. I'm not sure. There will definitely be tons of content. We've published about 6 articles in the last 24 hours. There's another couple Wolfpack ones coming tomorrow. And I've got articles set up for Sunday as well. I'll be talking about Virginia's ability to bounce back in an article, and I'll be talking about Carson Dorsey and what he's meant to this Florida State rotation since the injuries to Leiter and Whitaker. But we've got a lot of content. Obviously, follow Nick and Micah at FQACC because Micah's been making some great video stuff. But let's get your final thoughts, Micah.
Well, I wanted to ask a question. This might be the last show that we're all going to be on together until this game happens. Right now at 12:09 a.m. on the 15th of June, who wins the elimination game between Virginia and Florida State?
I'll let Nick answer that first.
I'll tell you my answer. My answer is Florida State.
I'm not surprised by that.
I'm not surprised. By that.
Legally, you have to say that.
No, this isn't even legal at this point. It's. I think that Virginia is more like this is. Tell me if this is a weird take. Virginia it'd be better for the ACC for Virginia to win, in my opinion, because I do believe that Virginia has more depth to be able, from a pitching standpoint, to be able to battle back from this, to win 4 straight games, right, to get out of this bracket. Where I don't, no offense to Florida State, they're just injured. I mean, it's just plain and simple. They're injured. I think there's more to it than Virginia. But, I mean, Monty, once you told me what your opinion was based off reading the room in the post game, it was kind of my opinion. Like, what is it going to take for Virginia to finally get over the hump in Omaha? I mean, they're 1-5 in their last 1-5 in their last 6 in Omaha. Like, what is it going to take? And that one was the domination win over Tennessee on the first game of tournament play. So, since then, it's been nothing but kind of, again, close 1-run losses. I think every single one's been 1 run. Maybe the Texas game was a 2-run loss. But, it's just got to be frustrating for these guys. And I'm sure, maybe they're due at some point. But I think right now, and I also think, too, I have a lot of respect for Florida State, right? They're going to be pissed off. They're going to, they know that they feel robbed. And so they're going to go out there and they're going to I think they're going to swing a haymaker early and if Jay's not on his best stuff, it could get ugly early.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Nick, did you want to answer? Mike asked us the question. Mike asked us the question, then got to answer instead of us.
It's okay. Let Micah have his moment.
Let
Neither of you
Micah.
wanted to answer it right away, so I figured I'd just answer because I already knew my answer.
Go for it. No. That's totally fine. I'm glad that you did. My gut is telling me.
I can see your comment. At least I've been to Omaha. You're right. I'm
We've
grateful.
not only have we been to Omaha, UVA's won a national championship.
I mean, Miami's won a lot of national championships
in the ACC. I don't think so. They didn't have to play a conference schedule. They played in the Big East. They had to worry about St. John's. Oh no.
Was St. John's Big East at that time? Anyway, that's besides the point.
My gut is telling me Virginia, just because I do worry about Florida State's bullpen right now. I think Virginia does have a tough task if it's going to be. We're all saying it's going to be Carson Dorsey on the bump, right?
It's Link said it.
Okay, so
I said
if it's not Carson Dorsey, I want to know who.
When I asked the question, I said I assume Carson Dorsey's going to be on the mound, and he nodded yes.
Yeah.
So that's confirmation. Right?
That does worry me because he has looked really good out of the starting role. But my gut is telling me Virginia. I just feel like, there's got to be a fire under Virginia's belt. Like something's got to come out of it, right?
Can you put Canes Cat Heat's last comment on the board? Because I simply want to just point this out so everyone's listening. Yeah, Canes Cat Heat. Of course you want to trade the last 20 years. I'll trade you the rest of your history, though.
I wouldn't.
You don't want as many national championships as they have?
No, I like our clean-cut programs.
Okay, fair, I guess.
the 80s Miami, they can keep that.
I will trade. I will make that trade on one condition. That means that I get those milkshakes. I get the Mark-like shakes in Charlottesville. If that is included as part of this trade, Canes Cat Heat, we will make the trade right now.
Yeah, I'll flip a coin. I can't. I would probably flip-flop about 18 times between now and Sunday's elimination game between this. I can't tell you now. I'm not even going to try.
It's tough.
Just give me one now. You're allowed to subject to change.
I just don't know, man. I'm devastated.
For both? One?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing, Monty. It stinks. Do you think I want to pick which one is going to lose? No. I didn't. I was hoping that I could be sitting here, Monty, and going like Tennessee's going to go 0-2, aren't they?
I was hoping I could sit here and be like, man, the ACC almost went undefeated, but UVA messed it up. Which is funny because somebody had to lose. I love that I explained the joke when it was very obvious what it was. But yeah, that's going to be our show for the night. We'll be back tomorrow. Micah will not. Micah, do you have any final thoughts before?
Coward. I'm just kidding, Monty. No,
it's okay. You're upset. It's okay to lash out.
I'm looking forward to being this wedding and then seeing how far I can drive to Omaha. I'm not going to lie. If NC State loses to Kentucky tomorrow, I don't know how I'm going to make that drive to Omaha. I'm going to be just so frustrated. So
I don't know how I'm getting home.
So the weight of the ACC is on NC State's shoulders again, Nick. No pressure or anything.
Yeah, Nick.
I know. Hey, we'll just do it again. We got the ACC, the Final Four. We can get to the finals. It's okay.
Where did this confidence come from? This is so
it's so NC State like, right?
Yeah. And Kentucky is going to win now. Thanks, Nick.
All right, Nick. Final thoughts.
Can't wait for tomorrow. Go Pack. Tough break for Florida State. I do feel bad for them just overall, but there's a ton more baseball to be played, right? Like we've seen crazier things happen. Teams can pull through this. It's happened before, but I'm excited for another day of baseball tomorrow. Yeah, and we'll be doing the weekend rotation tomorrow with a special guest at 10 a.m. Eastern time. We'll be talking about these games even more. I'm on Central Time, so I had to just think about it to make sure the people who care about the ACC who are on Eastern Time, which is everybody, is aware. So we'll be doing the weekend rotation tomorrow morning, talking ACC ball. I'm sure Noah and Jake and Mark will make some jokes at the ACC's expense, and I will stab Jake for everybody. But other than that, please do. That's all I've got, and we'll see you guys tomorrow night, except for Micah.